What is up, YouTube? We're going to be going over the balance adjustments, kind of, regarding the warfare rule changes. This is not specifically talking about the new characters that are coming out, obviously, in Tactical Archetype Koli, but rather the new RTA warfare rules that will be applied for the next season. I really wish that they did implement Extinction Warfare and maybe like some kind of combat readiness warfare, but honestly, I think these warfare rules are pretty interesting and it will definitely shake up how we draft and the meta and also test the adaptability of the players in the E7 Masters coming out in April. But nonetheless, we're going to jump right into things. If you do enjoy, please drop a like, comment for the algorithm, and subscribe if you haven't already. And we're going to waste no time. All right, so starting off with the offense tier list for the warfare rules, I think at the very top of the list, these are the main benefactors of which warriors are going to be getting the biggest buff overall out of all warriors, right? Emil Aria, I think needs no explanation. When you compare this with Nurse Yulha, she already does so much damage on the S3, and you're giving her an additional 20%, and she gets damage share. I don't know. This damage is going to be kind of unreal, right? Whatever damage that you already do now on E7 Calculator with 60 or 70k HP, it's going to do even more, right? Same thing with Strays. Ignoring damage share with 20% extra is huge. Hand Guy is also a massive one, right? Hand Guy is kind of niche almost because he's on that 4 or 5 cleanser slot. But when he gets that S2, it does fully penetrate. And they already buffed his S2 damage with an extra 20% boost. And it's also going to ignore damage mitigation now. That's going to be very, very powerful, right? If you have him on your team. Lionheart, I think, needs no explanation. If you're playing Cleave, if you're getting countered, especially by units like Satsuka or Monarch Assyria, that extra 20% damage is massive, and it could bypass scales, which is, again, huge, right? Anything that allows us to fight scales easier, I welcome it with open arms. And obviously, Lethe will be, he definitely needs some testing, so he would want to be slotted around down here. But realistically, 20% extra damage on Lethe is pretty significant. um, yes, he already applies Frostbite. Yes, he already ignores damage share. But having 20% extra damage on Call of the Abyss, it's going to be massive, right? We saw a little bit of a damage drop. We haven't been able to actually see his numbers come out yet. But with the extra 20% damage increase, I would assume it's going to be good. And every other category, like Teiyu is for Cleave, Lone Crescent Bologna is kind of in this category where it needs testing as well. Inheritor or Miki, I would say, yeah, 20% damage increase is nice, but a lot of the times in the drafts where you actually pick Inheritor or Miki, chances are you already are going to win by having her stay alive, S3, S1, and just proc a counter, like 1 or 2 counters. So realistically, I don't think there's that much significant change. Along with Bystander, Hwayang, and Hecate, both characters already ignore damage share on S3, but the fact that they get extra 20% damage is very significant because it makes building them even easier. And if your build already kills now, chances are it's going to kill for sure. Niche category is the units that maybe you pick once in a blue moon, and you might be like surprised why Shu is here. I think Shu actually has fallen off quite significantly because the meta has just kind of gone too fast, right? Even in the current offense warfare rule at the time of recording, where it's increasing that injury damage in the game, she still seems to underperform because of Fallen Cecilia and Maid Chloe. So I still have her placed around this niche category, and any character that's in here, obviously for Harsetti, it needs no explanation. If you play Harsetti, Rack, but yeah, you'll know exactly why, right? Now, the 3 units I said that needs testing the most is because Abigail, we don't really know exactly how impactful the curse damage scale changing will impact her playability. And Jacqueline and Yufine are obviously decent bridges when you're playing like Rand Cleave, Briar Cleave, any debuff Cleave. But the main thing is a lot of the other bridges in the game already do the job better. Maybe you would pick this over going like Emil Ludwig or something now because you get that 20% extra damage. But unfortunately, these characters are a little bit outdated, I would say, so I can't see it getting that much more play. But I'm very curious to see if we'll see the return of like Zio Yufine or Zio Jacko or Rand Jacko with Chain of Chiron, that kind of thing, right? That's going to be the tier list for the offense section. We'll move over onto defense. Okay, so this will be the RTA defense warfare tier list. Okay, so obviously these are not all the RGBs that are in the game. There might be some that you feel like should be added, but at the current landscape of what RTA looks like as of today, and also taking into account E7 Masters coming around the corner, this is the tier list that I'm kind of putting on here. You could agree, you could disagree, but I'll go over my thoughts right now. So obviously, Frieren, right, one of the best mages in the game, arguably the best mage in the game, needs no explanation, right? She gets the additional damage reduction, which helps her survive against units like, Bellion with 3F potentially, or just any chip damage that might be coming her way from Renac on Pursuit set or something like that, right? So this is obviously triple S. Renac is an opener that we all have, that we all abuse as an opener. The longer they live, the more S3 you can get, obviously, right? Blue Payra, because the escort changes from 30% damage here up to 40, she will be very, very strong in Lunatic, as she already is in that game 3-4 spot, when a lot of the openers start getting banned out, right? So Blue Payra obviously very strong. Setsuka will be very strong. We already know right side Setsuka, we know that experience. So Setsuka, the fact that she's able to survive even longer is going to be really annoying to deal with. Next four units here are Crow, Albedo, Silvertide Christie, and Adventurer Ross. I think these four units are going to be very strong as mitigation options because 30% damage reduction is very significant. And you look at a unit like Crow, right? He's able to use Holy Sacrifice. You look at Christie, right? Christie's able to protect this Spirit Eye Celine type of comp or protect your win con in the back line. A-Ross, same thing, right? You're able to protect the back line. Usually you would pair this as an A-Ross plus Tori combo, right? So specifically under this Warfare, if you didn't play that meta, the A-Ross Tori combo might see a little bit of a rise in this particular Warfare, which I think people should really, really account for when they're playing in the E7 Masters, right? Albedo obviously will always be very strong when you need Pyramid. That obviously needs no introduction as well if you were playing in that meta. Now, under the S tier, these are kind of characters that I'm expecting to see receive the benefit almost immediately overnight. Tori, obviously, it's kind of the ARAS combo, right, that I touched on already. Swift Flag Bearer Sacred will be very strong, especially against units like Monarch Issyria or just any units that have low tempo. Or if School Nurse Yola is pre-banned, she will be very strong as her fear cannot be shrugged off unless it's Dragon King Shrew. Veronica, MLDN will always be a problem, so having this more survivability will always be helpful. Flan, the longer you live, the more damage you can dish out, so makes sense. This is applicable in basically every tier. It could be Triple S, it could be in Harsetti, it goes for Flan especially, right? Festive Ida might allow you to live a little bit longer so that you're able to get an additional Shyness proc off, but I can see it being a detriment to Fida as well because that might be the difference on whether you do enough damage to actually proc her. For example, if people pick Fida into Bellion, right, and you have a barrier, it could be problematic in that sense. But she's kind of in this tier where she's already very strong at the moment for very specific use cases. Leafy, come on. The longer you live, the longer you can do damage. So makes a lot of sense. Green Landy, especially if you're playing into ML Arias, if you're playing into like high buff comps like Maid Chloe, will be very strong as well. Mort, for sure, right? He already has one job in countering the Monarch, countering the counter units. So Mort having 30% damage reduction will be very helpful for him to stay alive longer. So very curious to see that. All the other units that I have listed down here are kind of whatever. Green Army kind of needs testing because she is technically the best single target damage reduction in the game. So by having that extra damage reduction on her, could we see her return as a potential like kind of budget option for some players? Maybe, but again, it kind of needs testing. I think some other units would be better, right? Even like Christie or Crow would probably be better. Harsetti is for Laya, Young Senya, Aram. Obviously, some units are interchangeable. And I think at the end, it's going to be seeing a little bit of an increase. Elena is going to be a little bit tankier. Hecate is a little bit tankier, so you can survive to get to that S3 point if you're not on a fast build. If you're just trying to counter like revivers, right? And Fern, obviously, if you're able to like survive more 3F procs Rebellion, even better. And Celine, if you have stealth, your AoE damage is reduced by 50%. So by staying hidden longer, again, same principle applies. The longer you can stay alive, the more damage you can output, right? Anyhow, let's move on to the next warfare rule. Okay, so for the support warfare rule, at the very top, Satsuka, right? I will say I don't know if this is like just how much you gain at the start, or if it's like throughout the battle, or if it's both. Like it's not really specified here under this specific warfare rule, so I like we'll have to test it. I have no idea, but just looking at the core units in itself and how we use them in today's meta, Obviously, Suzuka is very strong if you're playing tank down or if you're playing in Harsetti. Cav will be very strong as a cleaver, especially if they get the passive similar to how if you pair it with like Cavill and Freeman together, you just kind of proc immediately, right? So that'll be very strong. Same with Young Senya, so that you can have, say, a unit like Bossa in the front, not needing that green unit potentially. That could be very impactful, right? MLTU as well, right? The more fighting spirit he has, the more flexible you can play with him, and the more open-ended the options are going to be. Um, some of the other notable units is Twisted Eidolon Kayron. If you pick him and he gets to that S3 even faster, the game is going to probably be over when you're using him against, maybe units that have evasion and stuff like that. Landy makes a lot of sense. You can get an empowered S3 at the very start, which is going to allow you to proc Wall of Order. It allows you to get a lot of damage output and consistency overall when you pick Green Landy in this Warfare rule. SBC obviously is more of like an aggro cleave option bridge. It's more cleave aggro oriented. I would probably put it even into a B tier if I could. B tier is kind of the units that are kind of very niche. Like, yes, Yuffie and Candy, once in a lifetime, were very strong, but obviously get hard countered by Mort and like other things in the game now. Along with Dilibet and Aravi, like they're not picked that often, so it's kind of an eh. Fenris and Benny Marl, respectfully, we might need to keep that shit hidden. No flame. The two units in Charlotte and Low Crest of Bologna, they might be an S or A tier, I'm not sure, but as of right now, it would be disingenuous of me to put them in any tier because we have to test exactly how much damage they do. Charlotte's kit is completely different by having 50% more damage when she has a buff and 50% damage reduction as well. So it's kind of weird. I don't know what her numbers look like. Same with Low Crest of Bologna, right? How much injury is she going to do? Right? How much damage is she going to be able to do with her new like rework, right? So I don't know, but I definitely think they'll be around that S, maybe A tier for sure, because I can see them being very strong, regardless of if it's in a Harsetti matchup or whatever matchup, right? Obviously, it's not mentioned, but if you have not geared Elvira, you probably should start gearing her because this unit is going to be almost a force man in this Warfare Rules, especially, right? In some cases, right? On that 4 or 5, you're probably going to need Elvira gear, so make sure she does have 6 pieces of gear, unlike myself. But last but not least, we'll move into the last Warfare rule that we're seeing from the new change. So last but not least, we already have the Resistance Warfare rule in the game right now. It's carried on from even the previous season and just the overall creation of Warfare rules in general, right? So I don't think there's much impact in that regard. We already know the units like MLR, you're very strong. We know if you're playing like Soul Weavers like Maid Chloe and you're kind of stacking that 250 ER, you get an extra 100. Makes it very easy to resist. So I don't think there's much to say about Resistance Warfare as it remains unchanged, but I am very curious to see just how much the new Warfare rules in offense, defense, and support are going to be changing the landscape. It does look like Smilegate is looking to keep 4 Warfare rules, but I do totally understand as well for this particular season, you probably don't want to make too many additions of Warfare rules because Epic 7 Masters is just around the corner. And on that note, as of March 21st, there will be another tournament hosted by myself and Valky. It will be basically a balance patch tournament, I guess you could say. So please stay tuned for that. Signups will be in the description below if you're looking to join. But that's going to be it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know if there are some units in any of the Warfare rules that you're planning on abusing or using that I haven't mentioned already. And I'll see you guys on the next one. So thank you for watching and take care. Till next video. Bye!